I am Jim Collison and live from the Gallup campus here in Omaha, Nebraska. This is Gallup's Called the Coach, recorded on April 26th, 2019. Called the Coach is a resource for those who want to help others discover and use their strengths. We have Gallup experts and independent strengths coaches share tactics, insights, and strategies to help coaches maximize the talent of individuals, teams, and organizations around the world. If you have questions during this live webcast, we do have a chat room available for you. Part of the YouTube window that's in there. You can just pop that out and chat with us if you'd like to get your questions in. If it's after the fact, if you're listening to the recorded version, you can always send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. Of course, don't forget to visit the Gallup Strengths Center, just gallupstrengthscenter.com. For all your Clifton Strengths coaching resources and training needs, you can also catch the video on both downloadable audio. We call that podcasting. All the cool kids are doing it today, and you might want to as well. All the ways to do it, we've got bunches of different ways for you to listen. Get subscribed, get in there. It's all our coaches blog. Head out to coaching.gallup.com. Micah Librant is our host today. She's a workplace consultant here at Gallup. And Micah, I never miss an opportunity to be on a Call to Coach with you. Welcome to Call to Coach.
I am so thrilled. It feels like a crossover experience. It's fun to get to come over and see what's going on in this Call to Coach world.
It kind of is, and good to have you filling in today. Especially good because you and I are just coming off of a Strengths Explorer series, so it's not just a crossover. We typically do Theme Thursday, which, by the way, we just released the kickoff series for Season 5 of Theme Thursday over at Eventbrite. If you're joining us live or you want to join us live, don't forget you can do that on our Eventbrite page. It's gallup.eventbrite.com. But you and I have spent a bunch of time thinking through each of the 10 themes of Strengths Explorer and finished up that series, wrapped it up. We're still kind of releasing the video, the audio and video that comes out with it. But today's guest has written some content for Strengths Explorer, and we're excited. Why don't you introduce our guest, and we'll talk a little bit about that.
Not just some content, you guys. I got an entire package of brilliance here from our guest. So we get to talk about all that Kelly Parks has created and everything that it took to go into that. And really, I think it's going to accelerate people's utility of Strengths Explorer. And Jim, you and I were talking over and over again as we're going through that Strengths Explorer series that really our goal was just to improve the conversations that adults have with children. And gosh, these are going to be some tools that are certainly going to extend that and help folks do it. So Kelly, welcome to the program. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Kelly, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you stumbled upon what eventually became Exploring My Strengths?
Well, first of all, a little bit about my background. I'm a former teacher, principal, and superintendent, and maintain an A rating for the Arizona Department of Education for 22 years, and won a national recognition for Title I Reward School. And so I have this background in education. And when I learned about the Gallup organization and the Strengths movement, I just knew that I wanted to join the movement, and I could see that it needed to be in schools. And so that's the purpose for the materials that we created.
So Kelly, I think we hear that a lot, this desire, especially from maybe educators or people who are connected to children in other ways. They'll hear about strengths, or they'll hear about the movement that we do with adults, and they'll think, gosh, why aren't we doing this in schools? But sometimes they come up against this hurdle and it doesn't quite come to fruition. What was that like for you from the moment that you realized this needs to be in schools? What kind of hurdles did you overcome to get to where you are now?
Well, first of all, as a teacher, I remember I needed to have resources. I would go in the summertime, I'd go to teacher supply stores and, just look for the most perfect poster or supplemental materials to go up on my walls to help me teach the content and focus on what I needed to teach the students that year. And I realized that quickly that in the schools that there was no resources for the strengths training for students. And so as a teacher, you always create what you need. And so that's how this idea was born. So
how did it start? Where were you at the very beginning?
Well, what I did was I was working with a couple of schools here in Arizona. And there's a superintendent, Glenn Gaddy, who invited me to do the strengths training in his schools. And I invited him and the administrators to get together to brainstorm some ways in which we could make the strengths training for children fun, memorable, relatable, because there was nothing out there. And so I wanted to get their ideas. And there was a curriculum director. Her name was Faith Silvius. She's brilliant and talented. And she said that she had written a children's book before. And so I said, okay, let's start looking at that. And so what we did was we decided to create some characters that would go along with each of the Gallup 10 new themes. And then from there, we created some narrative and some poems to go along with each of the 10 themes. And with many revisions, we were able to create the Exploring My Strengths book. So
if it's okay, I'd like to just sort of jump into this book. And I told Jim and Kelly in the preview, this might be a little bit like an unboxing, because I have gotten to preview the book, but I got this brilliant kit of all the other supplemental materials. And I just flew to Western Nebraska last night and made sure that this was like in my carry-on. You know how they say, if you have any important batteries or medications that you can't get lost, don't put it in your checked baggage. This ended up in my carry-on because it was that important.
Awesome.
And I'm so thrilled about it. I think what stands out to me is, of course, these 10 characters, being able to not just think about them as talent themes, but to give them a personality, a persona. So we've got Andy, the achieving ant, Camille, the caring cat, Connor, the competing coyote, and I do love a good alliteration, so you already scored there. Caleb, the confident cougar, Dan, the dependable dog, Dixie, the discovering dolphin, Freddie, the future-thinking frog, Ollie, the organizing octopus, Percy, the peacock with presence, why not? And Reggie, the relating robin.
Yes.
These are fantastic.
Yes.
What do you feel like this does for kids, to not just to see them as talent themes, but to have some characters alongside them?
I think that it gives a dimensional look and makes it fun. Children are visual learners, most of them, and they have short attention spans, a lot of them. And so you have to have something that, if you're teaching something new, you have to have something that they already understand and connect with. And so I wanted to create something that could do that for them. Because, for example, Andy, achieving ant. Well, what do ants do? A lot of children have seen ants, and they know that they're always working and they are always achieving something. And so that was just really fun to see children actually connect with Andy, the achieving ant, and say, oh, I'm like that. I'm like Andy, the achieving ant. So it's been really fun.
That's great. What kind of a response have you gotten? Is this in schools already?
Yes, it's in schools. It's been fun to really watch teachers as they read these. And actually, this book is created for probably an adult to sit down with a child or a student and kind of go through each character and introduce them to what these themes mean and create new terms for them. And what I noticed right away was children almost resonating with them, like, oh, I think I'm like Dixie, the discovering dolphin. I'm really curious about things. Or I would see them pointing to their friend and saying, oh, I think she's organizing. She's always have an organized desk. And so they're noticing the strengths in not only themselves, but their peers. And also I like it when the teachers also say things like, I'm organized too, and it's making all of those connections, I think is really rich.
So with Strengths Explorer, and we talked about this in our series and in the Strengths-Based Parenting book as well, it's not just taking that 10 to 14-year-old age range who really are probably most appropriate for the tool. There's also this notion of strength spotting that goes much earlier. I'm seeing these images of characters, and thinking I might not have the words or the awareness to talk about being organized, but I see 8 arms on an octopus all doing something different, and that helps stick in my head of something maybe I can start strength spotting a little bit earlier. What age group do you feel like this has worked best in?
I think that probably K through 6th grade is probably the best ages. Beyond that, the character's a little bit primary for them. But I was surprised that even 6th graders really related and loved them. And so I would say K through 6.
Kelly, as I was looking through the book, we have copies here as well. And thinking about the way I read, or I read to my children, and then I read to my grandchildren now, I wouldn't hesitate. There's some great, the way the books are kind of lined out is I think there's adult content across the top, things for adults to read. Students could do it too with advanced reading. I don't think it's as much fun that way. And then a question to ask, right? And then on the other side, there's a poem, right? A saying that you can go through, something that's easy to read. And I would sit down and read the left side and ask the questions and just talk about those with them. I could do that with a 4-year-old. Like, I would not hesitate. I know, you said maybe a little older, but I would not hesitate to have those conversations with a 4 or 5-year-old and really lead that out. I also know that those students love repetition. And so it would be another one of those things where bring the book, and I think you could read it over and over and over. I'm also a big fan of making up stories. My son, my 21-year-old son, made a book of photos of our cat. And I don't know why. I think he had a free coupon for one of those books. You can make a book out of some pictures, and it's just our cat over the course of about 6 years. And I sat down with my granddaughter and started making up a story about, there was no words in this book. There's just pictures. And I would encourage folks as well to do a similar deal where doesn't have to be the same thing every time. And you can actually, after the questions, you can begin to make up your own stories and ask your own questions. I think about, so what would this character do? There's one about winning, which I really appreciate in there. I think you ask, do you love to play games? Do you love to be a winner? I think, Micah, you and I, as we've talked about some of those strength spotting exercise, this is some of the questions that you threw out during our Strengths Explorer series could plug right into this to be asked at the same time and hear the student respond. I don't know, Micah, any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. There's so much, I think, opportunity for when you think about this as how does it enter the classroom? Kelly, as somebody who's led teachers and thinking about it from your sort of adult mind, what sort of advice do you give teachers who say, all right, I'm in, where do I begin? How do I get this in front of my children and incorporate it into my curriculum?
Okay, so the first thing I would do is use this book to introduce each of the 10 Gallup Youth themes, because what we're trying to do is create terms that the students can create a common language. If it'd be like a common strengths language between adults and children, because it's important to create terms that you can actually have a conversation around. Competing or presence, what does that mean? And so you have to have visual representations of that. So I would start with the book, and maybe for the younger children, I'd have them color. I have a coloring book. Have them color some of the pictures as you're talking about each of the characters. And then from there, one of the very fun exercises we do is I have teachers, when they're reading other children's stories, ask good coaching questions. Well, what in this story, we have some characters. I wonder what their strengths are. What would you think about that? And actually have them think about and defend their answers. Well, he is competing because he really hated to win in this story. And so to have children actually respond in that way and really deeply understand each of the 10 strengths by first learning with the book and then moving on to the content in everyday in the curriculum that teachers already have in their classrooms when they're reading stories and having comprehension questions at the end of the story. They can insert some strengths questions like, well, what do you think? So it's a lot of fun. So that's how I think we first start is actually naming what these strengths are and how they actually play out in real life.
That's really great. How much of a learning curve do you feel like there is for teachers? Like, what do they need to know or be proud of before they can feel well equipped to have these conversations?
I think that having strengths training workshops, and then also I have them listen to the Gallup themed Thursdays. I know it's a little plug there, but I think that it's really important that they understand deeply, not just the name of a theme or a strength, but what does that look like and how does it play out in real life?
Mm-hmm.
And when they understand themselves and their strengths and how it plays out, then they can bet and why that's important to them. You know, why should they learn what their strengths are? And how can they teach with those strengths? And we have the book, Teach with Your Strengths. And so we've trained around that as well. And knowing that, okay, if I have connectedness, how can I use that strength in the classroom? And then beyond that, it's, okay, if that's important for me, how can I develop those strengths in children? I can tell you that parents absolutely love the fact that not only do these teachers appreciate that they're teaching them academics, like their math, reading, and writing, but they are actually developing their strengths. Not only do they care about their academic success, but they really care about their life success. And so parents, when they see this, they want to know, well, tell me more about these strengths and where can I get that book? And so I just think it's pretty exciting to know that not only are the adults having conversations about strengths, but they're having it with little people, students, their children. It's important.
Yeah. Kelly, there's so many different, I think, options when you're thinking about what do we really need to make happen in our classroom, and time is always limited. Resources are always limited.
Right.
What was it about strengths that really made you decide this was something you wanted to support?
You know, I know that as a principal, we always dealt with bullying in the schools, and I had programs that I implemented in the schools, and it was great. But I'll tell you what, as soon as we put the strengths training program into the schools, I actually measured this. It would decrease by 24%.
Bullying?
And bullying. We
Wow.
measured the discipline write-ups for bullying.
Yeah.
And just because no longer is it's kind of a moot point to make fun of somebody because they're different. Because actually being different is awesome. And it's great, and it contributes to our class, it contributes to our school. Every single child has something important to give. They have a gift. And it's for teachers and administrators to understand what that gift is and to help them serve themselves, their classroom, their school, their home. And the only way to do that is for them to understand the terms and understand the strengths language so that there's this common language created. So really important.
I love that idea of, it's hard to make fun of something if I can name it and I know what it is. It's easier to sort of attack something if I'm confused by it. But wow, 24% decrease.
Yes. So cool.
What are you tracking in terms of success when you think about this, even for your teachers? Is there some element of benefit for the adults in the classroom as well?
Okay, the benefit is that teachers, if you're a good teacher, you really want to know what makes kids tick. You want to know their inner motivation, because if you have to discipline them, you want to know their natural way of thinking, feeling, and behaving. And you shouldn't be disciplining all children the same, because each child is so different. And so I think that is important for a teacher, also for administrators as well. So I think, just getting to, again, those terms and having those conversations about, who is this child and what are their needs and how do they see the world, and how can I know, for example, let me share this. We put this in special education as well. In special education, you have psych evaluations, hearing and vision screenings, and there's all kinds of assessments that come into play so you can see the child in a well-rounded way. Well, we've added the Strengths Explorer assessment results to the conversation, and it has expanded. I feel like we have more of a 360-degree view of a child, and the parents really appreciate it. The administrators love it. And the parents just, I mean, if you come to a SPED meeting and they're talking about how your children's strengths and how they play out in the classroom, I mean, it's so beneficial.
So I'm so excited and just sort of delighted by this idea. Can you walk us through maybe that specific example, looking at special education as a space where already they're being run through so many different results and so many different conversations? What does a typical parent-teacher conversation look like now that you've got Strengths Explorer results as well? How would something like that work?
Well, instead of looking at what's wrong, okay, we're so focused on what's wrong. We're now focused on what's right. And what is this child's natural way of feeling, behaving, the way they see the world? I remember one of the SPED meetings, the SPED director had said that there was a child that was, I believe, organizing, and the mother wasn't so organized in her life, and so she would come to school late every day, and she just felt very disorganized starting her day, and so she would shut down for the rest of the day. And so when it was brought to the table, well, this child is organizing. Oh, the teacher said, I can totally do that. I will help her when she gets here. We're going to have everything organized. Teachers are so great. Once they know what to do, they totally can be creative and help facilitate what a child needs. And so this child's world was turned around just by including strengths into the conversation. And anyway, I just think that it's benefited so many areas in a school setting, but in a home setting as well, between parents and children. Instead of parents just knowing what their strengths are and talking to each other, it's now, okay, let's talk to our children now about their strengths, and how can we as a family also improve our conversations, improve our relationships, and just the results that we're getting.
Yeah. I think I like the credit that you give teachers, and I would say also probably, family members or parents, that it isn't that we don't want to focus on what's right. It's that maybe we don't have the equipment or the understanding to do it. And once you help us understand what to do, we'll jump right in.
Right.
So what a great bridge you're building between that desire to really live out the mission and the ability to do it.
Yeah.
Kelly, when you were doing this organizationally, this is where we get down to the brass tacks. Lots of folks are like, how do you actually, I mean, it's a big deal to roll something out like this.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about some tips and tricks and your experience with that.
Okay. Well, my tips and tricks are, I know for a fact that if you have any initiative that you're going to start off in a school, it has to go to what I call the cell, every cell in the organization. And that means cafeteria workers, playground aides, bus drivers, special education, front office. From the beginning to the end, everyone has to be in the strengths conversation and encouraging each other, noticing, just even with teachers. If I know I have a child that's dependable or maybe in the cafeteria, you might make a comment like, wow, I can always depend on you to throw your trash away. Thank you so much. Just one little small thing that kind of acknowledges who they are and how they serve. And I just think that is the power of the strengths conversation, this common language. And I think that is key. I will also say that it's really important that the leadership, the administrators, I know you guys are coming out with the book, It's the Manager. Well, I'm going to say it's the administrator, because that right there is where I've had to do most of my work, coaching and helping them understand how important strengths are to them, and then the teachers, and then the students, and then the support staff from there. And so I think that is kind of how I would lay that out, having meetings and coaching conversations. So.
Did you find as an administrator that was easier to do at the levels you were at? If we think somebody's trying to come in, a coach is trying to come into to a district, and it's daunting, right? I mean, it's not easy to jump into a district and speak with the superintendent or speak with the principal. Give us some advice. You've been in all those roles. Can you give us some advice on that?
I think that, first of all, to make those connections, you do have to have relationships and networking, because a lot of times schools will not even begin to talk to you if they don't know who you are. And so that's one thing, is just use your networking that you have. And then also, I would say it does take time, just like in any corporate organization. It doesn't take off on day one. And there's like a bell curve of buy-in, and people that will acclimate to the strengths training. Some will just immediately put into place. They're super excited about it. And then you have others that are like, no way, Jose, I'm not going to be doing this. So what I've learned to do is just be patient with the process. And I remember, some people being excited to see me on campus, and other people not so excited to see me, because they know that I'm here to talk about strengths and that I am here to improve the conversations. And but I've seen that change for the positive. More and more people coming in, and they see why, and they see the benefits in their classrooms and their conversations with parents. And so over time, like I'm sure you guys have seen in other organizations, it just, that's the other tip I would say, is it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a while. So
we have unleashed, as Micah and I have been talking about StrengthsExplorer, and we've unleashed this new interest in it. And we've had a lot of individuals begin to think through, I got a new tool. I can go to a school district. Micah, I want to want to talk a little bit and throw this question to you. I think our advice has been, as you're picking this up, make sure you're engaging us for help. And it's not one of those things where we want to be involved to take it over, but we've got some tools. We kind of want to help you, especially when it comes to large code deployments. That seems to be the challenge. Micah, do you want to add anything else to that as we've thought through this over the last 12 or 15 weeks? Make sure you're getting in contact with us if you're going to do a large deployment.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that there's, you can tell you're in good hands if you get to work with Kelly. Obviously, she shows up and she's the person that people know. She's there to talk about strengths. She's consistent about it, and her message is on point and hopeful, and she's committed to do it. Even Kelly, your answer of get to every cell. I think that's sort of the idea of don't just dabble, right? Do this really right. Mm-hmm. And if you are a coach listening to this, I'd encourage you to remember that we've actually got experts at Gallup. I think about Jerlene Mosley and all the work that she does within schools. They've been out there and they've done it several different ways. To be blunt, they've made mistakes and learned from them. And so it's not something that I think we believe that the greatest contribution that we can make is really to make sure that there is a teacher in every classroom who loves and cares and lives and breathes about the humanity of the students. And so Gallup is in this not to take it from you, not to take your business, but to make sure that we're being true to the integrity of the instrument. We're really setting it up in a way that can benefit you as a coach who wants to be out there making some good change, and benefit ultimately those children who are going to benefit from the work that you're doing. So do engage us, partly because we can help you with the logistics, but also partly because we've been there before and we've got a big mission around doing it right.
Kelly, in the same tone as we think about the materials you're creating, and I don't think when I was talking to you kind of in the pre-call, I'd asked you, it's called Volume 1, right? So we have Volume 1 there. Does that mean there's Volume 2? Okay, so don't answer that question yet, because I want to ask this one first. How would you recommend folks use your materials to help in this? At what point does this get engaged in a system, or how does that work?
Okay, what I would recommend is that, for example, the schools that I work with right now, each classroom has a poster and a book, and some of them coloring books, depending on what age. And those are, to me, basic resources that you would need to introduce the children to the Gallup youth themes. And then beyond that, they can integrate that terminology into other curriculum that they're already using. So that they don't have to, it's not such a big deal. A lot of people think, oh, this is going to be one more thing on my plate, or I don't have time for that. What I'm convincing teachers of in the program that I've created is that it's 5 minutes a day. That's it. And you will not believe the impact that just even doing 5 minutes of strengths training a day will do. So, yeah. And I also wanted to mention, you mentioned Jerlene Mosley and Mary Reckmeyer. They actually gave me some feedback on my rough draft for the book, and so I'm so thankful. I wanted to publicly thank them for helping me with this book and acknowledge them.
Thank you. So I like that idea of, it doesn't have to be huge. It can be 5 minutes a day, and really talking about that return on investment. I remember the instances, and I used to work exclusively with our schools at Gallup, but even just as a community member, I remember the times we rolled out a new math curriculum. I remember the times we changed how we taught reading. And as an adult, it was the only thing anybody was talking about at every coffee shop and cafe and football game in town. And I think that this can be one of those foundational items that says this is a different lens that we can look through to see children, to see our students. But it's not going to feel the same way as, learn to count dots instead of look at numbers. This really can be. You can do it justice in 5 minutes a day. It doesn't have to feel like a complete overhaul. It doesn't have to feel like a completely new addition to your plate.
So true. Very doable. Yeah. And teachers, I've actually proved it. They go, yes, we can do this in 5 minutes. It doesn't take any more.
Yeah.
I'm so glad because I have so many other things I need to teach,
Well, I'm grateful for this. My son has a really great preschool teacher, and she said to me the other day, he's a little bit different. I don't mean bad different. I wish I had words to describe how different he was. So I'll be bringing her your book and pointing her to the
helps.
Yeah.
Kelly, are you available? From a business standpoint, as we think about some of the work that you're doing, if there were individuals who were looking at thinking about some of this and they wanted to touch base with you, are you available for consulting to kind of help other to extend this out to make it more scalable? Talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I would be more than happy. My website, I don't know, can I say that?
No, totally.
www.livestrongerdaily.org. And my email address is kelly@livestrongerdaily.org. And just email me and I'll be happy to connect with you.
Kelly, I'm curious from your standpoint as an administrator, what kinds of selling points or main motivators could coaches bring to administrators to really perk their ears up and convince them to dive into strengths?
Yeah, one of the main complaints that both teachers and administrators have is I don't have time and I don't have money. And so I try to tell them, actually, this saves you time and it saves you money. And I prove that to them because when you have 24% reduction in discipline write-ups, which I was able to measure with using the strengths program in schools, decreasing bullying by 24%, that creates more time for principals and administrators to do more of what they should be doing, which is visiting classrooms and not on the phone with parents on a discipline issue. And then finally, with money, when you have staff conflict, there's turnover, and there's a cost to that. A lot of administrators don't really realize that there's a cost to every single time that a staff member leaves. That's money gone. And so when you can improve relationships through strengths and create understanding, that you actually have, you're not spending as much money with a lot of staff turnover. So anyway, I think a great presentation and talking to them about the benefits, like you would with any coaching proposal, the benefits that a school can receive, that would be the best way to approach.
Kelly, I have one more logistical question for you, and then we'll start to bring it in for landing. Were there any mistakes you feel like you made as you were rolling strengths across, or anything that you would have done differently having the benefit of hindsight now?
You know, I would probably try to, the first time I went in, I did administrators and teachers. Mm-hmm. And it was almost like, we're going to be doing this, instead of getting some of their buy-in. So maybe presenting to the administrators and getting them on board and excited about the strengths, and then inviting the teachers and getting them excited. Instead of me doing all the excitement about the strengths training, it would be the administrators being experienced in strengths and using them. I think that I would change that a little bit more. Having the administrators lead out more with the initiative than just me.
I think that's great. And you know what, that probably matches a lot of what our consulting has taught us, whereas you've got a couple different options if you want to lead toward being a strengths-based organization. Sometimes in places where people's main pushback is, I don't have time, I don't have money, that organic sort of get people knocking on your door, asking what you have, instead of knocking down other people's doors, telling them they need to take it. Sometimes that is a really great way to start.
So true.
Kelly, as we think about ways for individuals to be able to interact, we said some of the web addresses I had earlier. You had mentioned the resources are now on Amazon as well. Can you just remind everyone again how to get in touch with you, the website to go to, and then maybe how they'd find it on Amazon?
Okay. So yes, the book and the materials are all on ExcelsiorCurriculum.com, www.ExcelsiorCurriculum.com. And then on Amazon, you can buy the book. My email address is kelly@livestrongerdaily.org. And my website is livestrongerdaily.org. So I invite you to join me.
No, Kelly, thanks for taking the time to hang out with us today to get through the issues that we have. It's always a ton of fun. We're excited about the materials that are out. I will remind everyone that this is officially licensed content with Gallup. And so there's a big process that goes through of getting it in, getting it approved, working with us in the licensing. And so lots of folks ask, they've seen the content. Yes, it's licensed with Gallup. And so we appreciate you going through that process. Micah, you want to add anything to that?
I think people sometimes are afraid to do that, but know that Gallup wants to be involved. We know that the mission behind this is too important to do kind of halfway. And we want to be there and be your partner, making sure that what we're putting out there is all the way and as good as it possibly can be. And we know that your audience is better than we can reach every single audience. Our commitment to have a million coaches or to have everybody knows their strengths, that can't happen only from Gallup. So go ahead and engage us, and we'll certainly be a partner to whatever degree that we can.
Super, Kelly. Thanks again for coming on. I'll remind everyone to take full advantages of all the resources we have available at the Gallup Strength Center, just gallupstrengthcenter.com. Send us your questions or comments. If you missed anything in this here or you've got a question, send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. You can also catch the recorded audio and video. It's available for download. If you want to just listen to it on your podcast player, all the ways to do that are available off our coaches blog, coaching.gallup.com. If you're interested in becoming a Gallup certified strengths coach, you can see a list of all the courses that lead to that off our courses page, courses.gallup.com. There is a contact form on that page as well. If you have some questions around it, somebody will get right back to you. Don't forget to join us for the 2019 Clifton Strengths Summit. If it's after June 3rd, 4th, and 5th of 2019, we probably have another one coming up. You can go to CliftonStrengthsSummit.com. There's a little bit of room left, Micah. It's super close to selling out. So individuals, if you're thinking about coming, we are really close. We're just a month and some change away from doing this. You might want to sign up. Still time to come. A few hotel rooms left. You might want to get it done. Head out to CliftonStrengthsSummit.com and get that in today. Mike, it'll be great to see you there as well. Kelly, you're going to be able to join us for the summit?
Yes, I'll be there. I hope to see everyone there.
Yeah,
Excellent.
great indeed. Don't forget, join us on our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/called2coach, and we'll continue the conversation out there as well. Appreciate you joining us live today, and we thank everybody for coming. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.